Hi everyone, I hope you're enjoying Consolidation Week and are having some well-earned rest and relaxation. I also hope that you're taking the chance to catch up on any readings and maybe making some posts on the discussion board. Now that you've received your results for Assignment 1A, I thought I would just provide you with some tips for Assignment 1B as a general reflection on what I observed during my marking of 1A. So I've made this tips sheet for Assignment 1B, and I'll explain this a little bit in more detail in a minute. Just a quick word though on the marking rubric for these assignments, in fact for all the assignments in this unit. They're all based on a holistic rubric, so you need to be aware that to pass these assignments you must meet every criteria for the pass section in the rubric. An example of this might be that some of you may have forgotten to include ICT in your lessons, and because that's part of the requirements of the pass mark for this assignment, you therefore actually will have failed the assignment. So please be aware of everything that's on the rubric and every requirement for a pass mark, and make sure that when you're uploading or before you upload assignment 1B, you've checked that you've met all the requirements for a pass. Now let's have a look in more detail at these tips. Okay, so point number
Tip
one.
number one.
This unit
are
actually
very lucky
provides you with a great
deal
deal
of
of
support
Juliana,
for your assignments, and it'll be the same for assignment 2 as well.
So please make use of the resources provided on the discussion board.
Use of this information.
Also make use of
So
the
use
unit
the resources
information,
provided
especially
on
the
the discussion
assignment
board.
information,
That includes the
and
Padlet, and
make
in
use
the
of the
unit
collaborates.
information, which is the assignment information.
Juliana, our
in the
unit coordinator,
and via the
really is
collaborates.
very supportive in the
This
amount
unit
of
has
more
information
she provides
than
about
I've
the assignments. The
before,
Padlets in
so
particular
please make use of it.
are a huge source
Oh,
of
hello,
information.
how are you?
Giving you ideas for strategies, ideas for needs, and lots of other information. Just one thing I will say about the assignments is the formatting of your assignments. These are a folio. So a folio does not require an introduction or a conclusion, but it does require paragraphs. So we want everything written in paragraphs, please. You can use subheadings, but no dot points and no tables are required, which is something that I noticed a few people did in assignment 1A. Point number 2, make sure that everything aligns. The need, the strategy, and the lesson should all align together. So once you've identified the need, you then select a strategy. And remember, the strategies will be listed on the Padlet. They'll be things like model writing, shared writing, guided writing, etc. Select a strategy that you think will work for that need, and then you design a lesson based around the strategy and meeting the need. Everything should align together. So make sure that your lesson addresses the need using the strategy that you have selected. Point number 3, we want you to be specific. So once you've identified the need for your students, make sure you support this identification with evidence from the writing extract, and then relate everything to this need. Now, the needs that we've identified for each student on the Padlet are things like punctuation, grammar, spelling, and so on. They're very broad areas. So once you've identified that need and supported it with evidence from the writing extract, then hone in and pick one particular area of that need. So for example, if it's punctuation, pick something like, you might say, pick full stops, and then design a lesson around teaching full stops. Don't design a lesson based on punctuation because that's too broad. Make sure that you hone in on one particular area. So for grammar, etc., grammar, it might be something like adjectives and so on. So be very specific in the need that you address for your student and the lesson that you design for them. Number 4, the lesson should be explicit, and this relates to what I just said then. Describe exactly what will happen. The ICT should enhance the lesson and not be tacked on at the end as an afterthought. So make sure you integrate your ICT into your lesson, but with your lesson, try to be as explicit as you can. Now, you don't have a lot of words. This will just be a paragraph, but you will be describing explicitly what's going to happen. So, for example, if you're doing a lesson on full stops and you're using the modelled writing strategy, you would describe exactly what the teacher will be doing and saying. You'll be describing the teaching methods. Your ICT could be that the teacher will be using the interactive whiteboard to write the sentences and demonstrate where the punctuation goes. So be as explicit as you can be. Point number 5, always support your work with academic sources. Refer to the eText and other scholarly sources. So the eText is going to be your main source of academic support for your work. It contains all of the information that you need about the strategies, about reading and writing needs and so on. However, to get a better mark, you're going to need to use other sources to support your work as well. As a general rule, we say that you should have an academic reference, at least one per paragraph. That should generally be enough. Be careful of the sources that you use. Try not to use commercial sources for things like your ICT resources. Be careful not to use information from their own websites because that will be biased. Try to find some unbiased scholarly sources to support your work. And that leads me to point number 6, which is to refer to the Australian curriculum. These are early years primary students, so make yourself familiar with the English curriculum and some of the writing content that's in there. We don't know for certain what year level these students are. It's not identified for this assignment, but you can assume that they're going to either be foundation, year 1 or year 2. So once you've identified your need, go into the curriculum and have a look through there at the foundation year 1 and year 2 content descriptors and try and find matching content to the need that you've identified, and then you can use that to support your work. You might use that when you've identified the need, or you might use it when you're writing about your lesson, but try to refer to the Australian curriculum because that is what the basis of where you're going to be getting your information from when you are a teacher. This is what the content that you will be teaching. So make yourself familiar with that content. And finally, point number 7, in part 2, when you compare the strategies, relate your comparison to the students and their needs. So what I did notice in assignment 1A was that a lot of you, when you compared your strategies, did that generally, but you didn't relate it back to the students and their needs. So for example, if you were comparing modelled writing and independent writing, you would need to relate that back to the students' needs. So if you picked modelled writing for Harper, you might discuss whether modelled writing would suit Madison as well. So try to compare them in relation to the students and their needs. I hope you found these tips useful. Remember, if you've got any questions, please use the discussion board, the question and answer thread on the discussion board, and I hope to see you all at our live Collaborate on Monday the 30th. See you there.